we have now moved from the revenue section, which for the first time spoke specifically about numbers, to the key business section. Now we are talking about the fundamental activities for the company, so those that cannot be missed, because without them we cannot function. If we look at it on the canvas, we're moving to the left side. With the right part completed, we're starting to talk more about the infrastructure part. On the right-hand side are the customers and value proposition sections. On the left, we try to understand what architecture makes our company successful. The main question is simple: what are the core activities? In truth, the development part is not so simple, because if you don't already know the sector, you may be in a bit of a difficulty. For example, if you've never run a bakery, it may all seem very simple, but there are obviously some activities that are very complex. So consider that this part will be easy for you if you already know the sector. Very difficult if it is not, because you will have to study the individual competitors very well to understand what are the aspects that you can also exploit for the company you are trying to create. Among key activities, for example, there are productive activities. If we deal with a brand, for example, or we deal with something related to food or the pharmaceutical industry, we have to produce something. From this point of view, we need to understand whether within a company the production part is very important. If I make clothes, I must have this part as fundamental, because without this productive part, the company makes no sense. I'm not just selling patents, I'm selling products. So evaluate whether this part is fundamental, because if it is, you have to evaluate everything that is connected. So how do you find individual suppliers, how to manage all the warehouse part, etc. There are many individual questions that you need to answer clearly and precisely on the canvas. There is also a part where it is more connected with problem solving. For example, consulting firms or doctors may not have to produce something, but they are creating customized solutions depending on the interlocutors. So evaluate from your point of view whether this can be useful for you, because when you do, for example, training, it is not the productive activity that is fundamental, but it is precisely the creation of different types of resources that can then be exploited. So try to understand what is behind it as well. It is not so much the fact of finding this solution, but how it is found. Then understanding, even at the level of individual types of resources, what are the activities that can be linked with this type of goal. In some types of activities, the ecosystem is fundamental. This is Microsoft's ecosystem, and you can see it's a lot of individual pieces. It may be that there is an activity behind creating an ecosystem. So, for example, if we are creating a community, this part is also very important because we are part of a more complex mechanism. We have to try to understand if people need to enter the ecosystem that we are creating. Consider that if you are a technological reality part of an ecosystem, relationships with the outside world, being able to create and maintain them, are also essential to be successful. Let's try to do a test by talking about Sherwood, this reality that deals with outdoor equipment. What are the key activities? If they offer package tours, we also need to understand how they find them. If we are trying to create this type of reality, we also have to work a lot on the research side. For example, guides try to understand how to create content, try to understand that if we sell products where they are still found, because maybe they are not produced directly by us, but we are creating an ecosystem that is based on tourism, we need to understand what the most important information is and evaluate it, because the moment we have a reality, the different types of elements that are all connected help us create different types of value propositions. If we're talking about, say, we're talking about sustainable swimsuits, here production activities are obviously very important. From the point of view of problem solving, there is not much, but if we have to create something very particular, we have to understand the models, how they're made, where we do, for example, shootings, how we create a communication material, how to sell them. So the activities will be much different than in the case of Sherwood, but we must try to understand if we were CA's close, how to be successful. A final case could be Stripe, which is an infrastructure for online payments. In this case, the technology ecosystem is the key. If Stripe were not implemented on different types of technological realities, for example, on e-commerce, or perhaps if it could not be used on WordPress, it would be a problem. From this point of view, Stripe will have to produce a lot of research and development to make sure that there are new integrations. as this is also the case for C. In this case, however, the technological part is prevalent. If, on the other hand, Stripe did something absolutely customized, then we would also have the problem-solving part. Consider that the activities can be very different. This then helps you to define the day-by-day, all the activities you do in a single day. So, as a recap, there are only 3 activities according to Osterwalder's theory, but they become many if you want to go into specifics. Consider that the canvas does not have to tell the whole life of the company, but only a part. So be careful, because if there is too much information, it also becomes a bit difficult to read. However, it can be helpful to understand where you see yourself, so reason with your team to understand what is most important. Why is this part included in the canvas? The concept is that you have to understand that these are the activities that you will do every single day. From this point of view, you also have to see if you like what you have to do. For example, if you work at SAY, you will have to make deliveries often or try to do e-commerce optimization, look for new suppliers. Maybe these are things you don't like. So you also need to consider whether you're the right person. It's an opportunity to find new partners and new types of resources, because maybe the team right now isn't a good fit for what you're creating. So you have to think about it for a moment to make sure that this part is then connected with what you've already put on the canvas, on the customer's part, and on everyone else. It can also be very useful for in-depth analysis of markets. So understand that if you have a lot of questions about the activities, it means that you have not studied the individual market well. So study the competition part very well, because it can be a great help to support you in this small section. Consider that companies like Facebook, Tesla, and Netflix have a lot of different types of businesses.